Bingley's hidden tea studio is tucked in an upstairs room of an old building in Uptown, just a block away from the Minneapolis Institute of Art. That's where I met with the owner, Julia Matson.
Hi!
Hello.
I was just thinking of you. I was like, yeah, I think someone's coming.
She was about to start her first class on how to brew tea in her studio. This lesson was about Gung Fu Cha tea.
This is part of cleansing the cups.
Julia is standing behind an ornately decorated counter filled with various teapots and vessels. Behind her is a shelf filled with teas and teapots ranging from small Japanese-style teapots, no larger than a tennis ball, to larger English-style pots that look like they came out of a Jane Austen novel. There were 2 people taking the class. The room couldn't hold many more than that. They stood around the counter steeping tea leaves in a small pot for 20 seconds at a time, noting the change in flavor each time.
It's not caramely, it's like almost molassesy.
Right.
That's Jessica Huffman, who came to the class with her friend.
It turned out to be much more exploratory and relaxed. So it was a very meditative experience as opposed to something super technical, so a lot less scary than I thought it was going to be.
After Julia demonstrated how to brew the tea, they moved to another part of the studio and sat around a small table, each brewing their own pots and sharing the tea, noting the differences and sharing stories. This is part of the way Julia promotes community through tea. However, Julia was not always so enthralled by tea. Growing up, her experience was much more limited.
Only iced tea, kind of the Lipton iced tea or, the fruit teas that you'd have when you're sick, kind of the lemon zinger type of tea bags.
She said that changed after taking a cooking class, where she tried loose leaf tea for the first time.
And it literally changed my life. So I started exploring tea more and more after that, and it just kept going.
That was about 18 years ago, and she has been traveling and learning about tea ever since, visiting Taiwan, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. She shared one story from when she was in Vietnam.
It was a day that didn't go the way it was supposed to.
She said that because she was in the country, she just wanted to be around tea fields.
Ended up hiring a driver who got lost and got lost and got lost again. Finally, I spotted some tea bushes and did my best to say, hey, let's stop here.
This is where she left the driver in the car to walk up the path and was confronted by a dog and a man yelling at her. Because she didn't know the language, she had to rely on pointing to pictures of tea.
Just kind of point, make like I was a writer because it was the simplest animation. And next thing I know, he's leading me further afield and around into this other area. So it could have gone wrong really badly.
But it didn't go badly. Instead,
I was introduced to the farmer and his wife and their daughter. And we sat around and drank tea and laughed and shared tea snacks. And we couldn't really communicate because they didn't speak English. I don't really speak Vietnamese, but we were communing over tea.
she said that later, the driver got lost again. So she walked up to another tea farm that she didn't plan on visiting, where they show her how they processed the tea.
That is part of the beauty of the tea community. Anywhere you go in the world, you cannot really talk to one another through regular language, but you're communing over tea.
She hopes to bring some of that community back to Minneapolis through teaching classes and hosting events at her tea studio.
It's been really fun listening to people who've come in and they lived overseas or, they've had their own adventures. And so we're just all sharing.
David Miner, University Report.
And now slowly lift the aroma cup up. And what you'll do